Good morning and welcome to our content-based presentation that is based on the August examinations. The subject that I'm going to tackle for this moment is educational management, and on your screen you can see the different codes of the subjects that are covered under this topic. ACP EM12, DJP EM31, BES EM32, DEM12, DES EM22. So these are the subjects that are resorting under this particular module. And let us look first of all to the basic concepts. The basic concept and aspects of management. First of all, before we look into that topic in detail, I want just to give you the general remarks for you to be aware of. It is expected from you to read all the learning outcomes in your study guide, because these learning outcomes are actually the guiding documents or the guiding lines to show you how far you should get into your study guide. And on completion of all the units, you should be able to master all the learning outcomes. Before you start reading any topic, the learning outcomes are stipulated for you, and that is there for you to familiarize yourself with those learning outcomes, because they are actually the guiding through the study guide. Bear in mind that we as tutors, we are not allowed to give you scope of work to be covered during examinations. So which means that it is upon you yourself to read through the whole study guide. Make sure that you cover a substantive amount of work in the study guide. So you will need to study all the units as you are guided by your learning outcomes. I will also in the end highlight certain topics that students find very hard to answer, as well as the common mistakes that are done during examinations. Let us look at management areas of a school and the levels of management as one of the topics that is covered in the module that you are doing. While you are studying this section, you must note that there are various opinions on the different areas of management, but you are guided by the study guide as to the areas of management that we are going to tackle. So you as students, you are required to discuss this in the school context. You will find that the topic is very wide, and it is covering the different spectrums of management, but you will need to bring it down to a school context. And that is what we are trying to do during this presentation. Seen from the perspective of the principal, management areas can be listed as follows. It covers the staff affairs. And when we talk of staff affairs, that include the curriculum and the teaching matters. It also covers the learners' affairs, the physical facilities, that is now the facilities like the desks in the schools, the stock taking, and so on. Providing information, this has to do with the computers and all the data that is stored, and also information that are coming from the regional office or from the ministry, and that is what we call the administrative management. Principals are also tasked with financial affairs and also school community relations. Their role is also to be the liaison officers between the communities and the school, and also classroom management, where many teachers are actually operating. So there must be a link between what the teachers are doing in the classrooms linked to what the principals or the HODs are doing. So that is classroom management. Those are now the different areas that is covered in a school context. And then within the school context, we have the various management levels. We have the top level management, mostly that is the principal operating at that level. The middle level management, where the HODs are operating, and then we have the lower level management or the operational level, where in many schools you will have the section head, depending on how you call them. Sometimes they are called the section head, or in some cases you have the subject heads that are at these levels. Now, the levels of management, to go a little bit into details, these levels of management are linked to a person's position, or they are linked to a person's rank in the structure, as well as the planning task or function of a manager. So the different levels, top level management, has also something to do with the function that you have to perform within the organization, within the school. As I have indicated before, the principal will operate, for example, at the top level management. The HOD will operate at the middle level management. The subject head or section head will operate at the lower level of management, or the operational level of management. But all these managerial levels or levels of management, they are not working in isolation. They are working in harmony. So, which means that all the teachers within that organization that we call the school are part and parcel of the structure. So all these structures complement each other in the end. And then we look at the function that we call the generic management functions, which are planning, organizing, leading, controlling, in short, POLC. So in every level of management, we have functions that are performed at every level, which are planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Again, these functions are also working in harmony, because you plan an activity and then you organize the resources, or you organize the human resources in order for the activity that is planned to be executed. And you don't end there, you also motivate or lead a group of people, or a group of human resources that you have. You lead them, you motivate them in order to achieve what has been planned. And in the end, again, you control. In other words, you evaluate whether what you have planned in the first place, is it being executed, and is it being executed properly? And if there are some hiccups that it is not being executed properly, you evaluate to check what is the problem. So you go back again and see and look at your planning and find out whether what you have planned, what is it that is making it not working effectively. So it's a kind of a cycle that goes around, from planning to organizing to leading or motivating to controlling. And if things are not working according to plan, you go back again and look at your planning and try to do things differently, and so on. Those are the generic functions of management. As a reference, you can read the book by Van der Westhuizen, 2010, from page 135 up to 235, chapter 4. The 4 management functions or tasks are discussed in details. I believe that every student is in possession of that textbooks. If not, please get in contact with the IOL office. I'm sure they will be of assistance. And then we look at another topic, which is management and leadership theory, This topic covers a various management or leadership theories and approaches, and also it looks at the difference between leadership and management. It goes further and look at various causes of managers' failure. Why do managers fail? That is the topic. So you need to look into this. You need to read your study guide and familiarize yourself with this topic. It also looks at the methods of how to lead change and how to put them into practice. That is now that topic. And then we also, it continues the same topic about the concept and features of leadership and leaders. So how do you describe leadership? How do you describe leaders? So those concepts are discussed very thoroughly in the study guide, concepts and features of leadership and leaders. It starts with the definition of leadership, what is meant by leadership. It goes further to elaborate on the leadership skills, the different leadership skills that a leader must have, and also the leadership styles. We have different leadership style, autocratic leadership style, democratic leadership styles, and so on. So you need to familiarize yourself with these styles of leadership. And in particular also, Peter Drucker's approach, which is known as the good old-fashioned hard work type of leadership style. So you also need to zoom into what Peter Drucker's approach is, the three abilities, and the characteristics of effective school leaders. Very well discussed in the study guide. There are characteristics of effective school leaders. What must they comply to? Qualities of a good manager. Those you must be able to describe the skills or the skills that a good manager must have in order to be a good manager. And then another topic, which is the school as an organization. You study the learning outcomes again. It's very important because learning outcomes are actually the compass that direct you as to how far you should navigate through the study guide. Without those learning outcomes, you will not know what to study. Many students, sometimes they just Google some information. You must know that the information that you Google are very relevant, yes, but they are not according to the learning outcomes stipulated in the study guide or in the module that you have to study. So I'm not saying that it is wrong to Google information, but Google it having the learning outcomes in mind. This topic looks at the school as an organization. There are various subtopics that are covered under the topic or main topic, school as an organization. One of them is the universal features of an organization. How do we describe an organization? To what features should an organization ascribe to in order to be an organization? So the universal features of an organization are stipulated there in your study guide. And then we look also at the types of organization that you can get, closed and open organization. Then the school culture. You will be able to discuss school culture as part of its hidden curriculum. You come at a certain school, and even before you have studied or you have read what the school stands for, the atmosphere that is prevailing at the school determines or shows you already the type of school culture you expect to get. The quietness that is prevailing at a school, it's part of its hidden curriculum. The way the communication between the staff members, between the institutional workers, between the learners, already determined the kind of culture that is perpetuated at the school, and that is what we mean that it is part of its hidden curriculum. It's not written somewhere, but the way that the people are communicating, the way that the people are interacting in that community depicts the type of culture that is prevailing at the school. If you want to read more about this topic, please consult the book by Van der Westhuizen, section 12.5.3, page 624 up to 629. It will give you more insight about the nature and the role of the school culture or as part of its hidden curriculum. And then the other subtopic under this is the school as a formal and informal organization. There are also some features that describe the school as a formal organization as well as an informal organization. The previous examination, many learners have covered this particular topic very well to distinguish between the school as a formal organization and the school as an informal organization. Again, the school as a professional organization. Features of a school as a professional organization are also outlined for you. You need to study these features. Another topic is the rights and responsibilities of employees and learners in a school. In your topic is discovered under Unit 3. The rights and responsibilities of employees and learners are clearly stipulated in the Constitution of Namibia and the Education Acts 2001 and 2004. I must highlight that rights and responsibilities are in general or are stipulated very much in general when you look at from the Education Act. So you need to bring them down to the educational context. Differentiate between concepts of a right and a responsibility. What is a right and what is a responsibility? And according to the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, page 221 up to 1014 and 1002, stipulate the difference as follows. A right is a moral or legal claim to have or get something or behave in a certain way, whereas a responsibility is defined as the duty to deal or take care of something or someone so that you may be accountable if something goes wrong. Very clearly stipulated there the differences. Rights and responsibility of learners. Here, as I said before, you must apply it to the school situation or to the school context. So you must remove them from the general ones down to those that are dealing with a school situation. And we also deal with the features of the school as an organization, whereby the following topics are also dealt with. How to compile a year planner for a school. If you go to your study guide, an example of a year planner is given to you. In your own school situation, you have also year planners that you can also refer to. And also how to manage physical facilities in the school. This is a very important topic because it is very important to manage our physical facilities, our school buildings, our furnitures, our books, and so on. And for you, in order to manage these facilities, you need to have a plan. And the sketch that is on your screen is actually a schematic representation of how you should go about your plan to manage physical facilities at a school. In the center, you have school facilities, maintenance planning. So it is very important that you have a maintenance plan for school facilities. The reasons are also provided in your study guides why it is important to manage or to have a plan for maintenance. Let us look on top the occupant and health and safety. That is one area why we need to manage our facilities. Imagine if you have the ceiling that is about to fall. The safety of the children or the safety of the staff members are compromised because such ceiling is going to cause some damage to human beings. And that's why it is very important that we manage facilities for the sake of health and safety. Imagine the toilet facilities that are not taken care of will lead to unhygienic situation. So the health of the children and also staff members are compromised. That's why it is very important that we manage and we make sure that the facilities are managed, just as an example. Now the implementation and evaluation. So if you have a plan, there must be an implementation plan as well. So things must happen. And you must also from time to time check whether the implementation is in place, whether it is on course. Capital planning, here we are talking about the money that is being allocated for the facilities to be put for maintenance, training and managing staff. So in other words, there must be also training for the people to manage the facilities very well. And the staff must also be managed. In other words, they must be aware of the school facilities that must be managed. The learning environment must be conducive, and you cannot have a conducive learning environment if you do not have facilities that are safe to use. So the learning environment is one aspect why we are dealing with this subject of school facility maintenance and planning. Stakeholder needs and vision. That is also very important, that when you do maintenance, you must also take into consideration what are the needs, what is the vision of the school. If we say we are a school of excellence, it means that our vision must also be incorporated. The facilities that we have must be of excellent standard, and that is why that is very important, that we maintain our school buildings and so on. And then the topic about the Namibian cluster system, the advantages and failures of the Namibian cluster system. After independence, it was seen to be of importance that we have a cluster system. As teachers, you know now when we talk of cluster system, we talk about schools that are clustered together or put together in groups in order to achieve certain objectives and in order to manage schools more effectively. But there are also some drawbacks with regard to the Namibian cluster system. And you also need to evaluate these drawbacks according to your regions, according to your cluster that you have. You must evaluate them objectively, taking different regions and the challenges that they face into consideration. It is very well covered in your study guide, the different challenges that the cluster system are experiencing. Although it's a very good initiative, there are some challenges. So you need to look at the purpose of the cluster system. Why was it created in the first place? School management issues. This topic looks at the skills required to plan successfully. It also looks at the ways in which the physical environment of the school impacts on the quality of learning. This is followed by an explanation of an effective recognition and reward system. There is a discussion of the merits and demerits of the school cluster system and how schools could develop values in learners. So this is the topic that deals with your awards giving ceremonies at schools. You can read in general. You can also use example in specific school situation because you are dealing with this topic every time. In particular, it focuses on what is required to improve teaching and learning in order to produce enhanced learner outcomes. This diagram goes back to our cluster system. It is actually explaining the situation before the cluster system was introduced and after the cluster system was introduced. It starts with the head office. We used to have one head office, and then that head office has to run 7 regional offices. The 7 regional offices has to run 5 up to 10 circuits per region, and the circuits have to run 25 up to 50 schools per circuit. So this was a lot of work for this scenario. Now, with the introduction of the cluster system, yes, one head office running 7 regional offices as in the previous case, running 5 up to 10 circuits per region. But then with the introduction of the cluster has to run 5 up to 7 clusters per circuit. That means a lot of work is alleviated from the region. The clusters are now empowered with certain functions in order to make the workload much easier for the circuits, eventually for the region, and also for the head office. That was the idea. And also then the school cluster will run from 5 up to 7 clusters, schools per clusters. That is also a further reduction of workload within that line. So that was the region. That was the reason for clustering system. And I just put it in words for you. Levels of management in the Ministry of Basic Education, Sports and Culture before the introduction of cluster system on the left-hand side, and after it was introduced on the right-hand side. The number at each levels are the numbers of units managed by the levels above that level. For example, the head office manages 7 regional offices, each of which has between 5 up to 10 circuits. Now we go to the common mistakes that students are making before the examination. First of all, start earlier. It is just an advice that I give you after you have gone through this presentation. You must start earlier to prepare yourself for the upcoming examination, because it's a lot of work that you have to do. And if you don't start earlier, you are going to run into trouble of not finishing the whole study guide. Some of the work in the study guide is a matter of memorizing some facts and a matter of reproducing those facts. But some areas you need to understand and then apply the knowledge to a situation given. Now, many of the students neglect to study all study units thoroughly. They kind of what we used to call spot. You just take a few there and a few there, and you don't cover the whole study guide. That will pose problem for you. So you are guided by the learning outcomes as stated in each unit, and those are the learning outcomes that must guide you as to how far you should get into your study guide. Pay attention to the meaning of verbs. It's very important, as explained in your study guide. Before you read everything in your study guide, there is an explanation of verbs. This will not only guide you, or it will not only give you an idea of the type of question to expect, but also guide you how far you have to study a given topic. So if you study those verbs, if you also go through the learning outcomes, you will know if the learning outcomes start with discuss, then in that particular unit, you must expect a question that says discuss, describe, and so on. And also the inability to interpret the question, that is also one of the shortcomings that we have seen in the previous examination. Some students lack the ability to interpret the question correctly and give appropriate answers. Students are just reproducing any facts without analyzing what the question wants. For example, let us look at this question. The question was, use the figure to clarify the relationship between administration and management in terms of its hierarchy. Use the figure to clarify the relationship between administration and management in terms of the hierarchy. First of all, you need to look at that figure and make sense of it. What does it say? It, first of all, give a demarcation, or it divide administration and management. So that is a difference between administration and management. I'm talking now about those two blocks, the two main blocks. And then there is the top level management, the middle level management, and then the lower level management. So in terms of time allocated to top level management, in terms of management, you see there is a very small amount of time given at the top, which means that the top level management function here as compared to the top level management in terms of administration. Top level management has little to do, or there is little amount of management they do, but a lot of administration. When you look at the middle level management, you will see there is an equal amount of allotted time. When you look at the lower level management, it's exactly the opposite of the top level management. Their function is more of managerial nature, while they have little with administration. So that is now making meaning of this figure. So first you need to interpret the figure and understand what it represents. That is demarcation of time devoted vis-a-vis the function. Administrative versus managerial in relation to the hierarchy, which means the top level, the middle level, and the lower level management. In general, a number of students did not study as hard as students should. When you are a student, you really need to study very hard. And one could see through the way that some of the students are approaching the question paper that you really did not put an effort. And many of them who failed because they did not study very hard. Another question also, that needs application of knowledge is this one. The diagram shows the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And then the part of question, demonstrate how you would apply Maslow hierarchy of needs to the classroom situation. In this question, the question assumes that you have studied and understood, and understood Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which means physiological needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization. Now, what the question wants you to do, the question is testing your ability to apply knowledge in a classroom situation. So a student needs to describe the concept. In other words, you must show that you understand what is meant by physiological need. For example, the needs for food, you're hungry, and so on. And then give example and back it up with a practical example from a classroom situation. Physiological needs is the needs for food. So in a classroom situation, if you have a child that is hungry, what do? For example, you refer the child to be part of the feeding scheme if there is a feeding scheme at school. Maybe you will give the child an early break after you have realized that the child is hungry, and the child go and eat and come back, because that will affect the child's learning. So here we give the understanding of the concept, and then we also give an example. The child is hungry, and then we give also a solution. What do? We refer the child to a feeding scheme, or we give the child an early break. So that did not come very much forth during the previous examinations. Such questions where knowledge is applied, you must really try to understand the question, interpret it correctly, and then give the relevant answers. That will bring us to the end of our presentation. If you have some questions about this presentation, or you want to hear more about preparation, the best thing to do is to send me an email at gkandetu@gmail.com, or you can call me at the number that is on your screen.